What's good? How we doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got the top 10 favorite AEW figures in my collection. So when I say in my collection, that's because I don't have every AEW figure ever made. We're getting there. So this is the ones that I own. I own most of them. So these are my favorites out of the collection, and the criteria for being in the top 10 is how it feels, how it looks, how much I like the wrestler, how it handles, and all those things that make up a good figure. And also, I should be more specific, this is just mainline AEW figures. This is no Supremes, no exclusives, or any of those. So this is just your unrivaled and unmatched standard line AEW figures. So before we jump into the top 10, I do have two honorable mentions that I'd like to include because they're very good. I love them a lot, but they just weren't enough to make the top 10. They did enough to make it to the honorable mentions, but not to the top 10. First figure being the AEW Unrivaled Series 6 Penta El Cero Miro. Now, I love this figure. I think it looks great. I think it feels great. I love Penta's figures. I think he's so toyetic and cool to have. But the other figures was better, and there's something about this figure that I couldn't keep off this video, but I couldn't keep him in the top 10. But yeah, so I love this figure, but it just wasn't enough to stay in the top 10. The next figure in the honorable mentions is the AEW Unmatched Series 3, Mr. Brody Lee, with the TNT title. Now this figure could have been top 10, maybe even higher, but as you can see the trouble I'm having, it's very weird. Alright, we got him to stand. So as you can see, it's a bigger figure. I do think it looks great. I think the attire is great. TNT Championship, great. But if you look at his legs, they're very weird, and it's almost like he can't stand because it's like a foot problem. It just feels very big and stocky and kind of just not as fun to pose around, but it is a very good figure. RIP the legend, so I just had to put him on the list, but in the honorable mentions, wasn't enough to make the top 10. So number 10 on the top 10 list might be a shocker to some people, but I'm putting the AEW Unmatched Series 1 Miro in there. Now, if you own this figure, you know just how it feels so good in the hand just to pose around and to play with and just move. And I mean, it just feels amazing. The head sculpt is a little wonky, takes points away from it, and it kind of looks a little bit weird like in the legs, but I mean, it feels so good, plays so good, handles very, very well. And I love it a lot, and it was just, I loved it too much to not put it on the list. I just think it's great, and if it was a better head sculpt, this could be way higher on the top 10 list. Coming in number 9 on the top 10 list is the AEW Unmatched Series 4 CM Punk. Now, this might be another surprise to people. I didn't hate this figure, but I didn't love it. Now, it feels good in the hand. And I love the tattoo detail and everything like that, but if you own this figure, you know it's weird. The head sculpt, I feel like could have been better. You know, for example, his hair wasn't flat like this, and his beard was not solid. It was kind of patchy. So I feel like the head sculpt was a little bit rushed. I do love the logos, which gives it points. And the main problem is the legs. Now, I saw it, that was the first thing I saw from the prototype images. The legs are too skinny. And it almost makes the top half look massive. Like, they could have at least gave him some knee pads or something to save the figure, because as you can see, his legs are very, very skinny. I didn't like that, so again, this figure could have been a lot higher, better head sculpt, better leg mold, or just better way the legs looked, and you could have yourself possibly a top 5 AEW figure. Coming in at number 8, we have the AEW Unrivaled Series 5 Hangman Adam Page. Now, I do love this figure a lot. You know, when I first got it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it's grown on me. I think with all the accessories on it, looks fantastic, but there's a lot of minor things that I dislike about the figure that keep it lower on the list. The boots look weird. Part with the bandana off, the head sculpt, it grew on me, but it's really kind of is an odd head sculpt. This belt piece is very, very loose. You can just pull that down there. And the elbow pad, I get what they're going for. You know, he rips it off when he does the buckshot, but it, like, you're just playing with it, using it, and it slips right down. Now I get you want it easy, but it's too easy, so it almost makes it annoying to use and move around and play with. Um, but I think had there just been a better head sculpt and minor things on this figure that were better, again, could be a lot higher on the list, but that's why it comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, I don't know if I would call it underrated, but I don't think it gets the recognition that it deserves for being such a fantastic figure. The AEW Unrivaled Series 9 Ricky Starks. There's another one, like, there's another case of if you own the figure, it feels amazing, it looks great. Head sculpt is good, could have been a little bit better, but there's not a whole lot I can find that's really wrong with this figure. You know, it feels really good, and it's like one of those guys you just want to pick up and pose around like the Miro. I just feel really, really good, and you want to pick up and use, and looks fantastic. But now we're getting into the territory of really the only thing holding it back is other figures being better, or I like them better, which is the territory that we're entering. So that's put Ricky Starks at number 7 on the list. Coming in at number 6, we have, again, AEW Unrivaled Series 5. This time it's Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. And this is, in my opinion, the perfect representation, perfect depiction of the character. I mean, head sculpt, you're really not going to get much better. I know we got that one recently, but head sculpt was really, really awful. So I just think this attire is great. It looks like it fits his body type. Looks like him. Head sculpt's amazing. One thing that deducts points is the hairpiece it being massive, making it kind of annoying to use. As you can see, like I can put my whole thumb in there, kind of covers it. So it's a very, very big hairpiece, which I get it. That's how his hair is, but I think a little bit of a different execution, which they tried going for with the newer figure. But they'll get it one day. But I do love this figure. I think this is pretty much your perfect rendition of Jungle Boy. You're really not going to get much better than this, and it's another one of those cases of it's not higher because the other figures are just better, and I like them more. So that's why Jungle Boy comes in at number 6. Coming in at number 5, this one kind of pains me a little bit because this could be a fair number 1, but we have the AEW Unrivaled Series 2, Jon Moxley. This figure is fantastic, but there's some really little things that kind of annoy me about this figure and take serious points away from it. It looks great. I think the head sculpt's really good. And I actually got a misprint. There's no painted beard on this side of the head, but that's not bad. I picked this up from Ringside. Go support them. But that doesn't bug me too much because that's not the figure's fault. We got this is the first, unless you got the Ringside exclusive, a little bit of the bubbly Chris Jericho. And this is the first mainline version of the AEW World Championship. Pants are fantastic. The jacket, highlight of the figure. But the little things, man, it's the head sculpt. It's very loose. Like, see the top half move. See, I should not be able to move like that. They move the head sculpt. They can't stay up. Very loose head sculpt. But really the biggest thing is the size. Now I'm just going to grab an old basic Dean Ambrose figure, beat up. But you cannot tell me that that is the same person. Based on height, you cannot argue to me that this is the same human being a few years later. So I just think he's way too massive. But I think apart from the looseness and the massiveness, I think this figure is fantastic. And had those little things not been in here, this could very well be top 3, maybe even number 1. Coming in at number 4, this one hurts me to do. But once again, we got AEW Unmatched Series 5, the other half of Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus. Now I want to put this number 1 so bad, but I just cannot. And it's again things, small things, keeping it out of the top 3, maybe even higher. I think aesthetically, this is the greatest AEW figure ever made, just based on tattoo and just how he looks, so toyetic and just a really, really cool figure. But the things that take away is really, he's massive, and if you look at Luchasaurus in real life, he's a kind of he's not small, but he's a slimmer dude. And this does not feel like I'm holding a slim, tall guy. It feels like I'm holding Brody Lee or like a Wardlow type figure. He feels very, very big and massive, and it's kind of awkward to use and pose around and handle. And really, the only other thing, his legs are so weird. They gave him like a foot boot mold, which is like I guess what he wears, but it's so he can't stand. Like, because his feet sit so weird on the figure. You can see they're like bent, curving out and like in and up and all these weird places, and he can't stand unless you like make him look kind of awkward. So again, those are the little things. I want to put this top 3 so bad, but I just can't, and the other figures above it are so much better for those little reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving into the top 3. These are the top dogs, the big dogs, the best, my favorite AEW figures in the collection. And this one might be a surprise, or a lot of people might disagree with this, but at my number 3, I got the AEW Unrivaled Series 4 fantastic set, Cody Rhodes. Now, Cody, just like Kenny Omega, his figures don't miss. There's not a Cody that I hated, but I really love this. I think this is the best mainline rendition of Cody that we've seen, because I just love the attire, the elite boots, the cool patterns on the shorts, the never back down Nightmare weight belt, the Thronebreaker t-shirt. The feel in hand is immaculate, but I think the head sculpt might be arguably the best we've seen from an AEW figure. I just think it looks so good and so much just like Cody, and this is like, I just love the figure, the way it feels, the way it looks, and it's just an all-around amazing figure in my opinion. Coming in at number 2, and I think a lot of people might agree with this. If you own the figure, you know how amazing it is. It's also a little bit biased, but we got the AEW Unrivaled Series 2. Actually, no, Series 3, sorry. Darby Allin. He looks amazing, you know, the skull face paint, the tattoos, the trunks and the leggings and the shoes, and you get this awesome jacket, of course, and it's like a softer rubber, so it doesn't hinder the articulation all that much, like it's not painful. You also get the really awesome skateboard, and it feels so good. And this could again be number 1 if the other my number 1 wasn't better. It's also a bit of bias. Met him 3 times actually. I got a signed figure. I got this figure signed about 2 years ago. So he was just on the climb. So it's a little bit of bias because I love him, one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. Figure feels so good, looks so good, and nothing's keeping him out of the top 1 except the other figure just being too damn good. Coming in at number 1, we got the top dog, the big dog. My favorite, the best figure in my collection. There's one man I have not named who I said has all amazing figures, none of them ever missed. That is Kenny Omega. But which one? Every figure of his has been fantastic. But the best one in my collection, my favorite one in my collection, the AEW Unmatched Series 1 Kenny Omega. If this came with accessories, this could be the best AEW figure of all time. Out of exclusives, Supremes, all that. It didn't come with anything, not hands, not heads, not a shirt. But truthfully, it didn't need to, man. Because I mean, the head sculpt is fantastic. The attire is great with the detail. The body type for Kenny, I love this formula for Kenny Omega. I think it just works fantastic, and it just feels so fantastic. And you just want to pick this guy up and pose around with him, play with him, do it for hours and hours. So I just think this figure is so fantastic. They really did a great job with it. And yeah, so that he really is Kenny Omega was really the only guy keeping these two out of the number 1 slot, because I love these figures so much. Everybody in the top 3. But really, Kenny Omega just being that damn good kept these two back a little bit, especially the Darby Allin. Easy number 1, but this Kenny's just too good, and I love it too much to not put it at the number 1 spot. So this has been my top 10 favorite AEW figures in my collection, with 2 honorable mentions. I love all these figures. There's little things holding them back, but of course, as we got higher on the list, it wasn't a matter of what was bad about them. It was just a matter of how good the ones above it were. For example, Kenny held these 2 back insanely, and the Jungle Boy was just too perfect to not put above Starks, with little examples like that. But I love every figure on this list. I think they're all amazing. Good enough to make the cut of the top, let's say top 12 of my favorite AEW figures in the collection. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and sub, and tune in for the next video. Peace.